So I had this conversation when we were in KL. I was very happy because I came across a man in the room. He's not here today. It's not Max. And we were talking about cycling. Are there any cyclists in the room? Raise your hand if you're a cyclist. Okay, I'm an avid cyclist. So we got one over here. Okay, next time I come to Singapore, we're gonna ride. So I do 40, 50 miles, I do 100 miles or 400 at a time, and it's great. And we got to talking about it, and he said, well, how'd you get into it? And I said, well, it's funny, I had given up all exercise. Let's see, slide. I got into it because of that guy. That guy in 2016 was a guy that I just didn't recognize. I didn't want to be that guy. So in 2016, I said, I'm going to do something about it. And so I did. Now that's the same jacket that you see in the first one. I could only close it that much, I couldn't even get it around my belly, and that was there. And I wanted to see, if you really want to see the difference between the two, that's a 10 kilo poodle right there. And named Grunt, by the way. And so he said to me, wow, that must have taken a lot of willpower to make that happen. And I said, it did. I said, what it also really took was accountability. So that's what I want to talk about, is accountability. Accountability like I just did with holding you all accountable to using the I agree cards. And that's the funny thing, is like, why don't things happen? Now, think about this, close your eyes, because we're all being honest. Have you ever been in that situation? Wow, there's nobody with their eyes closed. Is the mic on? Close your eyes. Raise your hand when this describes you or somebody you trust in your company. You have something that needs to be done. It gets talked about every week in the operational meeting. And somehow, it just never gets done. It's been on your list for weeks and weeks and weeks, and somehow it never gets done. Always gets moved to the bottom of the pile. Anybody ever have that happen? Because I don't say, there's some, okay, all right, good. So this is, I hate it when I'm talking about things that only I do that suck. So I'm really, really glad that you guys are in here as well. Well, let me show you why that actually happens. It's quite interesting because, and I'll just check. Anybody interested in how, if I give you a mechanical way you can figure out why it doesn't get done? Raise your hand or I agree card if that's interesting to you. Okay, good. Then you'll want to pay attention to this. So there are four reasons why things don't actually get done. And it starts at the top. The whole overall concept is that we have way too many things on our plate. How many of you have time, right? We talked about hourly time and calendar time. Oh, by the way, just want to tell you that weight loss, there's a number that's associated with that weight loss. 8,760. 8,760. It took me 1 year to lose those 57 pounds. So what is that, 22 kilos, something like that, right? And 8,760 is the number of hours in a year. Calendar time was the only way to do that. I was not going to lose those pounds in 1 week, right? So, as we move through, we're thinking about this calendar time. We have a tendency in the hourly time to stick 10 things on our desks that we only have time for 5. Anybody here actually have only the amount of things on their plate that they have time for? Yeah, that's what I thought. So here's why, then what we do is we take those things and we deprioritize them. They're all things that are important, but we have to filter through, because if we only have time for 5, but we've got 10, we have to figure out how we're going to move things down the list, and it's the other 5 that don't get done. So here's the categories. Motivation. there are definitely things on that list that we just don't want to do. And so, if I have a choice of the things that I want to do or the things that I don't want to do, what will I do first? The things that I want to do. So if I'm not actually motivated, if I don't actually want to do it, it goes to the bottom of the list, and I'll raise things to the top. The second one is know-how. Do I actually know how to do it? If I've got two tasks in front of me, and I want to do them both, and one of them I absolutely know how to do. Oh, you know what? That's a sales thing. I know how to do that. No problem. I'll just move that to the top of the list. I'll get that done because then I can feel like I checked off my box and I'm in good shape, right? Now, that other thing about data management and I suck at technology, that one I don't have a clue how to do, so we're just going to move that off and eventually we'll get to it, at some point. So the know-how. You got to have know-how. Now, the next part, oops, probably the other one. Keep wanting to go up and you have to go down. Is the tools. So I want to do it, I know how to do it, but it requires something. So how many of you are managing, for example, your customer relationship management on a simple Excel spreadsheet? Anybody still doing that? Oh, there's a couple, right? Because he hasn't gotten to the place where he's signed on to a CRM. And so he may know that he needs to manage his sales data. He may know that he needs to give better process to his people. Look, he's embarrassingly smiling over there now. I love that. But yet he hasn't invested in a CRM like HubSpot or even something simpler to put into his company. So when he looks at that task and says, what are we going to do with the data? It's like, well, I want to do that. And I know that I should be putting in a CRM, but we haven't figured out the tool yet, and so there's no way to do it, and so it gets moved to the bottom of the pile. Right? The last one, and this is the one that's critical, and even if he had the CRM, and by the way, for those of you who use a CRM like HubSpot, most companies only use 30% of what that tool is capable of. Right? And the reason why that happens is because, consequence. Without consequence, everything gets moved to the bottom of the pile. I may want to do it, I may know how to do it, I might have the tools to do it, but you know what? I got 5 more things. I got 2 customer issues, and if I don't deal with those customer issues, then the customers are gonna blow up, and that's gonna be bad. Or right now, I'm focused on making cash flow, and I've gotta do payroll, and managing that data is a nice to have, it's not a need to have, therefore I'm gonna move up all the things with consequence. So when you talk to your employees and you're sitting there and you're on your quarterly review with them, because of course all of you are doing quarterly reviews with every one of your employees, I'm sure. And you're sitting there and you're saying, boy, you know what, there's these things that we've been asking for, and we're not sure why they haven't gotten done. I assure you, you can go back to these 4 things, and it's going to tell you exactly why those things have not gotten done. That's a great thing to do in your monthly meeting or your quarterly meeting where you're tackling big items where you've been saying, we've been talking about this for ages. That's your cue. When somebody in the meeting says, we've been talking about this for ages, pull out those 4 things. Now, there's another aspect to this that came up last night. And somebody asked me, by the way, if you haven't seen this book, 12 Habits of Valuable Employees, if you haven't picked one up yet, let me tell you what it's about. It's about taking people from adequate or mediocrity to awesome. Vern talked about core values, core purpose. The core purpose for my company is to inspire people to pursue an awesome experience. And what do I mean by that? I'd like to eliminate mediocrity from everything that we do. Anybody else want to eliminate mediocrity from your company? That book is designed for your employees to learn how to eliminate mediocrity from their own behavior. Now, I learned a really valuable lesson in the process while we were doing that book. And it happened with this thing, I don't know, some of you might have experienced it. It wasn't very well publicized. There was this thing called COVID. I ended up in a lake house in New Jersey with my wife, sequestered for 2 years. She's a brilliant woman. And so brilliant that I am often both in pain and delighted by everything that she shines upon me. By the way, my wife is Asian, so I as an American have learned and lived under the rules where you experience an Asian F. So that's what we call it in America. Anybody know what an Asian F is here? We Americans refer to that as an A-. So that light is shined on me all the time for everything that I miss, and so I get to learn a ton. And one day, as a lot of people did when they were sequestered in COVID, I come from a generation where we focus on commitment. We focus on meeting our obligations. So we're living in the house. She likes to cook a lot. She does the dishes at night. I've got my set of chores, and one of my chores is to clean out the dishwasher when it's set in the morning. And so I would get up every day, because I get up earlier than her, and I would clean out the dishwasher. It took about 5 minutes to put all the dishes away. But somehow when I would do this, it just felt like, I gotta do this. It's like, okay. But I did it every day. And one morning she walks by, and I hadn't gotten to it yet. And she says, you didn't do the dishwasher. Now, that's all she says. In my lizard brain, I went, are you kidding me? Like, I do all this stuff around here. I make all this stuff happen. I'm working on this and gardening. I walk the dog 3 times a day, and you're gonna sit there and pick on the fact that for the one day that I didn't empty the dishwasher? Now that is not what she said. She just simply said, hey, you didn't empty the dishwasher. But because I'm in that mind of commitment, and I will tell you right now, commitment is absolutely 100% the key to mediocrity. I was sitting there going, I totally did my obligation. That's what commitment looks to. You say, I'm committed, that means you're gonna do just what you have to do to meet your commitment, and you're gonna do it out of obligation. At least that's what it was in my generation. Like, you get married I'm almost 60. So you get married in America in mid-suburban 80s, 90s. It's like, I'm going to meet my obligations. I'm not going to sleep around. I'm going to make sure I fund my kids. I'm going to take care of my employees. I'm going to meet my obligation. And I'm going to somehow get myself accountable to make sure I've done the things that I absolutely have to do. Right? So she sits there and says to me, she says, I don't really want to be married to someone who's committed. And I went, really? She said, yeah. She says, it's not very interesting. She said, well, what are you looking for? She said, truly? She says, I want to be married to someone who's devoted. I said, devoted? Now, a lot of times in our culture, you say devotion, and we think religion, right? But I'm like, tell me about that. She says, well, look it up. So I go and I look up the word commitment, and guess what it says? Meeting your obligations. I look up devoted, and it says doing things with enthusiasm. Like, with enthusiasm. And all of a sudden I started to realize that that's what was missing. Like, I come up and I sludge the dishwasher and I put things away and grumble away. And I'm like, that is not enthusiastic. And it occurred to me, I sat and I thought about it, and I thought, my wife, she loves to cook. She brings so much to the house in teaching and fun and joy. And I sit there and grumble around. And I thought, she works hard. She likes to come in, she likes to have a clean kitchen. And having that dishwasher empty, that just makes her day better. And all of a sudden I realized that I could find the enthusiasm for doing that task, that simple task, as the motivation for why I was getting up every morning. And all of a sudden, that 5 minutes became the best 5 minutes of my morning. In fact, people come to the house and they're like, oh, can we help you with the dishes? I'm like, leave your hands off my dishwasher. Because I get great joy out of actually just emptying that dishwasher, because I am truly devoted, not to my wife, because that's just codependency and creepy. I'm devoted to the relationship that we have. I'm devoted to the larger picture of what it is that we're doing. And therefore, when I look at any task that supports my marriage and the vision of what we're building, I'm genuinely enthusiastic. And I will tell you, every single fight that we have had since then is when I have lost myself and gone back into my old man committed brain and done things out of obligation. I'm sad to say it still happens. I work really hard to make sure it doesn't. So let's think about that for a second. Are the people in your company committed? Those people are contributing to the mediocrity of your company. Or are they devoted to the vision that you are setting for them, where they are looking at everything hard or soft or easy or difficult and going, yeah, let's tackle that. I'm going to do that. This is what we call engagement. And this, as founder and CEO and any leader in the company, this is what you're trying to stimulate, is this level of devotion. Now, you can take something as simple, and I'm picking on you about the I agree card. Are you picking up that I agree card because Kevin's saying you got to do it? Well, then you're doing it out of obligation because you paid the money here and the speaker's on the stage and you're going, yeah, I should really do this. Or are you picking up the I agree card because you're truly devoted to implementing scaling up in your companies? And you're enthusiastically going, how much of this can I possibly implement, and how can I engage the people to do this? Now, I'm going to give you a test. You already have one. I don't mean I'm going to test you, although some of you can do that. But I'm going to give you a very simple test that you can go back to your companies, and you can see who's actually devoted and who's just committed. The committed people are working for the paycheck. So this form, which is on there, everybody has one, I think. If you haven't looked at the Valuable Employees book, this actually mirrors the table of contents of 12 Habits of Valuable Employees. And you notice what we've set up, we've just asked some very simple questions here in each of these categories that wants to know, hey, what are you doing that's good enough? Committed, your obligations. And what could you actually do that's reflects devotion, that actually has value to the company that goes beyond. Because only the devoted people are going to enthusiastically do more than they're obligated to do. So here's how you play with this. It's really fun. You take this form, and by the way, in the learning program, which I'll tell you about one more time before the end of this, we recommend that you do this right off the bat, because you want to know who to invest money in your company. It's really simple. Put this test out, tell everybody that you're opening up leadership opportunities in the company because you're going to grow, and tell them that they need to apply for it. And give them 1 week to fill out this form. Put it online, send it to them by email, send them a link to it. What's going to happen is if you've got 100 people in the company, 50 of them are never going to fill it out. And that's going to tell you right off the bat who is not engaged in your company. And that's great. We call those the D players. And you may be surprised by some of the people who don't fill it out. Now, that doesn't mean you need to fire them. That means you need to go have a conversation with them and go, hey, dude, Steve, I thought you were in. Why are you not interested in being in leadership? And you have that conversation. Now, the second group might be 20, 25 more. They're going to fill out maybe 1 or 2 words. You notice we didn't do this multiple choice. It's intentional. And they're going to put in 1 or 2 words, and or they're going to write 5 or 6 words, and then they're not going to fill out every single one, right? Those would be your C players. They have some level of engagement. They're kind of interested if they don't have to work too hard. Maybe they just want to show you, just enough to show you that they're committed to the company. So that's easy. You can move those people aside, talk to the few that maybe you thought were a surprise, and then you've got the rest of them. Now, you only have, out of that 100, you only have 20, 25, 30 left, which means you can actually take the time to read the answers that they said. Some of them will be more sophisticated than others. Some of them will be more insightful than others. Those are your A's and B's, and those are the people who actually have the potential for leadership in your company, that are actually engaged, that may even be devoted and doing things with enthusiasm, and you will be able to tell by reading exactly what's on there. Would that be useful? Apparently no, because I see no I agree cards. See how difficult this is, right? Behavioral training, it takes calendar time and devotion. You could think about that for the rest of the day. You have a whole day, and it won't cost you any additional time to show Vern and yourselves how devoted you are to putting in new practices. Because I assure you, the I agree card is probably one of the simplest practices of everything that he's been showing you. Okay. That's probably pretty much enough. I want to point out one more thing in regards to that. Oh, and I probably need to move the slide to do that. Yesterday, I put up that. Oh. There it is. Yesterday I put up that and I got a bunch of blank stares. I'm not going to hard sell you on this, but yesterday you got an idea of how much there is that you're going to have to implement into those employees, particularly the ones that are devoted, because they are craving information that will help them help you, that will help them grow in the company. We didn't put this together so we could sell you a few things. We put this together because we keep looking at companies and they come back after trying to implement scaling up, and the management team comes in and they go back to the company and they go, okay, let's put all this in place. And then a year, 2 years down the line, the management team's got it, but they come to us and they go, okay, well, my employees aren't quite making my core values come to life. How do I get them to do it? They haven't gotten the meeting rhythms down. They're not at that place where they're taking this and making it come to life. Well, did you invest in them and give them the education that they needed so that they could be on the same page? You guys can't even get a simple I agree task here by the second day. How are you going to get them to do that along the way? So nobody agrees with that? So this is what we put together. 20 people that you can actually take through a process, and you get to try it before you commit to the long term, where they get live training and they can do that. Now, I heard this thing yesterday and it just made me giggle. I won't even point out who it was that said it. But I asked somebody, I said, what'd you think of that? And he said, I've got 10 employees right now, so I don't think it's appropriate for me because, you're saying it's for 20. No, I'm saying it's up to 20. But I said to him, I said, well, do you plan on growing over the next, 2 years? He says, absolutely. I said, so what you're telling me is you don't want to invest in the 10 employees that you have today because you're growing and you think you're going to waste 10 slots? So you're just not going to do anything with your employees to train them and teach them on this? I don't know, I haven't been a CEO in a long time. Could somebody explain to me the logic of that? Because I don't understand. Start training your employees today. It's going to take calendar time for them to learn how to do these things and understand. And so if you want to do that, the email's the same. All you have to do is just send a yes and the number of employees, and we'll have a conversation. No hard sell. I ask nobody to put out their credit cards. I appreciate the time. I am truly devoted. I come here with enthusiasm to get to meet with you guys and talk with you guys. It's a lot of fun, and I appreciate that you've allowed me to do that. Thank you very much. So, questions? Questions? Okay. Then on to you, Vern.